Hello everyone, welcome back to the classroom, hosted by me, Dr. Roshan Ramnarayan, a lecture series where I talk a little bit about matters of the body, mind, heart, and spirit. I try to put it together in a way that's easily understandable in the hopes that we could get information freely out there to everyone to help better their lives. So I slept last night thinking about what topic I can talk about today. And I woke up with the very, very brilliant idea of talking today about sleep. So, welcome to today's lecture on sleep. Consider it class is in session. So, what sleep is a wonderful habit that we have where we go into this sort of very low power mode. And we have our brainwave activity changes. When we're in deep sleep, our mind actually disengages from our body so that we don't act out on our dreams. And this is where we rest, rejuvenate, and clean up all these cellular debris from the hard day of work. So, to me, fundamentally, sleep is a habit. And that to me is one of the reasons why young kids have trouble going to sleep. You have to fight them to sleep. You have to lie down with them. They will, to anyone who have small kids, you will know it's quite a lot of theatrics to get them to go to bed because it's a habit that they haven't learned yet. And it's a habit where we literally have to fake it till we make it. We have to lie down and pretend to sleep until we actually fall asleep. Sleeping is as much as we just knock out when we're to the point of exhaustion, and that's something that isn't learned. The ability to go to bed at night and to fall asleep is a habit. And one of the things that habits benefit the greatest from is, and I'm going to write this in another marker just to emphasize it, habits benefit from a routine. So when our body can anticipate that, okay, it's 10 o'clock now, it's time to go to bed, our body naturally starts to shut down in preparation for going to sleep. Very similarly, to if anyone takes breakfast, for instance, or lunch or dinner at a particular time, our body, maybe a half an hour before that meal, is already preparing to receive that meal. Because of the routine, our body is familiar and has prepped itself now to receive said nourishment. The stomach acid starts to upregulate. We have more saliva. The gallbladder is primed and ready to inject bile into the intestines. And so having a routine helps sleep more than anything else. So if anybody here has sleeping issues, this is a lecture for you. Simply because having a regular sleep time, has been shown time and time again to be one of the most effective way of helping with your sleep. But I am getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited to share with you all the things that we can do to help improve our sleep. But before that, let me share with you the things that we do to break and destroy our sleep. And for that, I will write it in red, because red is bad things. So, things that hurt sleep. So, one of the things that you're doing right now, as we speak, is hurting your sleep. Because that screen that you're looking at me from, it has tons and tons of blue light coming from it. And so, screens equals blue light. And blue light destroys a hormone called melatonin. Our brain is constantly producing melatonin at all times during the day. But here's the thing, and this is evolutionary. When the sun rises and there's blue light in the atmosphere through sunlight, it burns away melatonin. And remember guys, melatonin is a hormone that makes us feel sleepy. So sun rises, destroys melatonin, we feel awake and alert. Sun sets, no more blue light because there's no more sunlight. Melatonin is allowed to accumulate, we feel sleepy, and we go and sleep. We are intimately linked to the sun, and that day-night cycle is controlled by the action of melatonin. Now, if we bypass that, and through the use of cool white light bulbs, with the use of TV at night to get a late night program in, to scroll on Instagram while we're in bed, we are flooding our eyes with blue light, destroying melatonin, and make it difficult to go into a deep sleep. Now, a lot of people say, but doc, I fall asleep in front of the TV. That's a big red flag for me. Because if you can't control when and where you fall asleep, it tells me that you're terribly sleep deprived. And make no mistake, just because you're able to fall asleep in front of the screen, it does not mean that you will have deep, restful sleep. So, my advice is cut off screens at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. And if these screens are absolutely vital for your work or for your schooling, and you have to watch it late at night, I would recommend investing in a decent pair of blue light blocking glasses. You can get them on Amazon for between $80 and $100 US for a good pair of blue light blocking glasses. And that would be able to help to block the blue light, and as a result, you will preserve your melatonin whilst being able to still be productive, if that's the case. But ideally, it's off. So for instance, at night, my bedroom and my children's bedroom we have a red light in our room. So my kids have a red nightlight, for instance. So if you have to get up at night, the red light prevents them from destroying melatonin. And for me, my bathroom light, I have a bulb in my bathroom that's red. So if my wife or I have to go and use the bathroom at night, that red light helps to prevent us from jolting awake with that bright, bright light. So this is one of the big things that hurt our sleep. Another thing that hurts our sleep is actually, and this might seem strange, eating late. And by late, I mean eating 2 hours before bed. And the reason for this is simple biology. Again, like I said before, when we sleep is when we go down into this low power mode, all the organ systems shut down, our metabolism slows, our breathing slows down, our heart rate slows down, everything comes to a crawl. But the act of eating is eat, food, stomach, and then we have to digest that food. Our liver has to produce enzymes to digest that food. The gallbladder has to squeeze bile to digest the food. The intestines have to keep moving that food along. The pancreas has to produce insulin to treat with the sugar spike. So there are many, many things that has to happen for us to digest the food that we eat. Things that we don't ever think about or even recognize or realize. So here we are eating late, and you're watching TV, you have a snack, you eat some food, and then half an hour after you go to bed. Apart from the food riding your chest and causing reflux at night, all of those very, very powerful biochemical reactions have to happen to digest said food. And as a result of that, rather than going to this low power mode and shutting down all of the cellular production, whilst our mind is asleep, our liver has to be working the night shift. Our intestines have to be working the night shift. And as such, we wake up in the morning feeling sort of not well rested as a result of that. And so eating late definitely hurts our sleep in that regard. So one of the other things, and sort of tied into this, that hurts our sleep is drinking alcohol late. And by late again, I mean 2 hours before bed. And again, this might seem counterintuitive because we could drink alcohol and feel sleepy. But the thing is, remember, once we get alcohol into our system, it has to go through our liver to be detoxified. And so, very similar to eating, when we consume alcohol, our liver will be working overtime. Even though the alcohol knocks out our brain and we feel sleepy and sedated, our liver will be working very hard whilst we're asleep. So that it's not a properly restful sleep in that regard. So, and well, this might sound sort of obvious, but working night shift. Now, of course it'll destroy our sleep because we don't sleep because we work night shift. But I put this here for a specific reason. There are tons and tons of data and studies that have been conducted that demonstrate that shift workers are much more prone to obesity, hypertension, diabetes, heart attack. Why? Because we are going against our biology by being up at night and working late. And the thing is, as much as they work late, they'll have to sleep during the day. And it destroys that routine. Most people work shift, and they don't work night shift all the time. Most people work a sort of night on, night off, or a period of night and a period of days. That destroys our routine. So even when the night shift worker is not working nights and is sleeping at home, make no mistake, because he's not in a routine of sleeping at home, he will not sleep well, or she will not sleep well. But at the end of the day, even though that person is able to be knocked out cold because they're so exhausted, you may not be sleeping sort of deeply. So, I mean, there are many other things that happen that hurt our sleep, but I just sort of say, let me list the big ones. So before I move on to things that help our sleep, which would be sort of opposed to these things, let me just talk a little bit about sleep stages. The stages of sleep. So there are a couple of stages of sleep. So first of all, well, obviously awake before you go to bed. Then there is light sleep. And then there is deep sleep. Now, deep sleep is separated into REM sleep and slow wave sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and slow wave sleep stands for, well, slow wave sleep movements. And so what I found was that REM sleep is mentally restorative, and slow wave sleep is physically restorative. So for instance, if you're exercising, you would actually find naturally that you're having more slow wave sleep. But if you have an intense job and you're very, very tired mentally, then this would be helpful. Now, how the sleep cycle goes is that every night we cycle through these things. So there will be times when we're awake at night. You know, we may get up to go and use the washroom, that sort of thing. And then what happens is we cycle between light and deep sleep. And we may have a light sleep cycle, then a REM sleep. Then light sleep and then slow wave. Light sleep, slow waves, light sleep, slow wave, light sleep, REM. And we cycle between those things. So for instance, if you hear something that goes bonk in the night and you wake up, it's because you were in a light sleep phase of your sleep. Or for instance, like if your alarm went off and you woke up feeling sprightly, more than likely you were in a light sleep phase. However, let's say for instance you had to set your alarm for a different time that you're accustomed to. Maybe not by much, maybe 20 minutes, you had to wake up a half an hour earlier or half an hour later, and you wake up feeling extremely groggy and extremely tired. It might be that you woke up in the middle of one of these deep sleep phases. It usually takes a couple of minutes, like maybe 15-20 minutes to to stabilize, but you wake up feeling quite groggy in that regard. So these are different stages of sleep. Light and deep sleep mostly. Those are the big things. So, with that being said now, let's talk a little bit about things that help sleep. And obviously, this is number one, right? So obviously, not using screens, eating 2 to 3 hours before bed, right? Don't drink any alcohol at night. If you have to have a little bit of alcohol, Sunday for lunch, for instance, after you mow the lawn, you could have a beer. Not that I encourage alcohol consumption, but for me at least, for this reason, if you have to have alcohol, I usually recommend during the day. Not so much at night because it affects your sleep. So, things that help your sleep, routine being top one, and this is quite interesting. There have been studies to suggest that having a cold room is very helpful for your sleep. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not saying that you need to be cold. What I'm saying is that the room should be cold. And so, I've seen some studies say 20 degrees, some studies say 17 degrees. But what I go with is the colder the room is the better you're able to sleep. And I think it lines up with our bodies as our metabolism slows down. Having a cool room, it sort of aids with that. So, but remember, we don't have to be cold. So, for instance, you can use 2 or 3 blankets so that you feel comfortable and warm whilst the room itself is cold. So, that actually helps us to sleep deeper as well. In Scandinavian countries, I've seen this trend where they actually let the babies sleep outside in the snow, for instance. Or they do something where they open the child's bedroom during winter, let the cool air in, close it, and then they put hot water bottles in the children's bed while they're asleep as well. So there's data to suggest that a cool room can be quite helpful for sleep. One of the most powerful things we can do for sleep is what I called the wind down routine. Now, many patients would have heard me talk about this before, because this, apart from just having a regular, when I talk routine, I mean a regular sleep time. The wind down routine combats one of the biggest things that steal our peace and our ability to fall asleep deeply. Raise your hands. How many of us here scroll on our phone before bed? How many of us work on our laptops, right? Stand on your laptop and pull a blanket and go and sleep? How many of us have stressful conversations with our siblings or wife on your phone and then go and sleep? The thing is, we are asking our brains and our minds to do something difficult. Because remember, we have to drift off to sleep. And troubled sleep always equals troubled mind. So, the wind down routine, it helps to protect us from the stresses of everyday life. So, for instance, I had a hard day at work, my boss quarreled with me, my co-workers got angry with me, just bad things happen overall. And I take that now and I'll have trouble sleeping. My wife and I are having problems, my kids are causing me stress. I'll have trouble sleeping, of course. And, the bills have to pay, the salary is late, all of these things. All of these this person is sick in the hospital. We live in difficult times, guys. There's no getting away from that. And that robs us of the ability to sleep. But you see this? This wind down routine helps to protect us from that. So I can give you my wind down routine. So for instance, and I try to do this every night, but I do it especially when I had a particularly stressful day to make sure that I'm able to sleep properly. So my wind down routine is that maybe like an hour before bed, I would maybe brew a cup of tea, whether it's chamomile or tulsi or blue lotus or something like that, a tea to just help me to something that's non-caffeinated, of course. I go outside on my porch and I do what I call breezing out, where for 10 to 15 minutes I just sit, and the same way a stressful environment can make us feel stressful, a peaceful environment can make us feel peaceful. So as a result of that, the cool breeze passing, the crickets chirping, the frogs croaking, and I'm there with my tea. And here's what happens invariably. I sit there with my tea, and then, oh man, I forgot to send an email. Very slowly, take a sip of tea, and bring yourself back into the present. I'm done for the day. That's for tomorrow. And then again, I'm sitting here again, and then, oh gosh, I hope this patient... That's for tomorrow. I'm done for the day. And I take a small sip of tea very deliberately to bring me back into the present. And I do that for about 15 minutes. And the act of me doing that is me signaling to my subconscious that I'm done for the day. I have bookmarked the day. I've bookended the day. There's no more productivity. My mind is now focused on getting sleep to prepare for tomorrow. So that mental exercise helps me to just decompress and relax. After that, I go inside, I do some light stretches, because I sit all day, so I just stretch the hamstrings, the back, nothing too crazy, get the tension off the neck. Then I go upstairs, I have an indulgently long hot shower, I ponder life, I read the shampoo bottle a few times, I don't rush. there's no need to rush. The day is over. This is literally the last thing you do before you go to bed. So I just sit. I stand in the shower. I take it in, let the warm water run over me while the room is cooling down, for instance. And then when I lie down in my bed, I don't use my phone at all, because my bed is a sacred space. No work is done, no phone is there, there's no laptop in there. Once I go horizontal, my routine is once I go horizontal and I pull that blanket, I am supposed to be asleep. Because again, if we're lying down in bed and we're on the phone, sending an email to work, or we're lying on the bed and watching a movie, if we're like watching a movie, our bed becomes a cinema. If we're lying down in bed and sending an email off to work, our bed becomes our workspace. My bed is a sacred space. Once I lie down, pull my blanket, go horizontal, and close my eyes, I'm out. I'm out like a light. Because again, it's a habit. It's a habit. And my bed is a place for sleeping. These two things here, the wind down routine and just having a regular bedtime, that alone can be very, very helpful in protecting you from all these stresses of life that rob you of your sleep. One of the other things we can do to help our sleep is, and as much as it's a habit, I am a physician, so I would use some supplements if needs be. So there are some supplements. One of the most regular or most common supplements we recommend is magnesium threonate. I like magnesium threonate because magnesium threonate it's a fairly benign, it's just some magnesium, and the threonate is the carrier molecule that allows it to cross the blood-brain barrier. It's the only form of magnesium that gets into the brain and helps you to calm down and to relax, and it sort of decompresses the brain and the nervous system. And in addition to that, it also helps with mood, it helps with memory, it helps with cognition, all that good stuff. And just chamomile, of course. Chamomile tea actually promotes the production of something called GABA. And I spoke about GABA in one of my previous lectures. GABA is our anti-anxiety hormone. It helps to calm us down. And so chamomile, by producing GABA, it helps us to feel calm and relaxed and all that good stuff. And then finally, if you do go to Ishtara, I would ask your doctor to, before you use this, there's something called Blue Lotus. Blue Lotus is the flowers of the Blue Lotus plant. It's something that I respect and revere a lot. I consider it a sacred plant. And I don't just use it willy-nilly. It's not something I'll just buy and just use it, because there are some unscrupulous people in the States who would have taken it and made high concentration extracts from it, and that causes them to hallucinate. And so that's why there are some places that it has a bad rap. But simply by taking a teaspoon or a tablespoon of Blue Lotus and drawing as a tea, it most certainly isn't going to cause any sort of hallucinations. But what it does really well, it helps to decompress the nervous system. It's actually called a nervine or a nervine, depending on how you pronounce it. And so one of these things, if someone is having trouble sleeping, would most certainly help with their sleep. I remember there's a story I have with Blue Lotus where there was a patient of mine who had trouble sleeping and he had palpitations and all these things. Really, really nice guy, easy to laugh, super cheerful guy. And giving him Blue Lotus actually helped significantly with his palpitations, because as much as he had trouble sleeping, he had so much stress and tension it was started to affect. He was getting palpitations, he was having anxiety and all these things. And the Blue Lotus actually helped him to kind of settle down and calm down quite a lot. There's another patient of mine who had restless legs, and the Blue Lotus helped with that one as well. So, again, there are quite a few things that hurt our sleep that we do without thinking, and there are a couple of things that could help with our sleep that we could do if we implement them on a sort of daily basis as part of our daily life. It could help. And so let me just be clear. These things take time. These things, they don't just take effect immediately. And so just remember that sleep is a habit that we have to cultivate. And by cultivating it, we get deep, restful, restorative sleep. Because here's the thing. In times of stress, one of the first things to go is sleep. But for me, when I have times of stress, one of the first things that I augment and I make sure and get proper is sleep. Why? Because the only way to really be able to rise to the occasion in a stressful or difficult time is if we have the vitality to do so. And because sleep is what helps us to rejuvenate and to provide that energy and that vitality to be able to keep going, I make sure and look after my sleep ferociously. So my hope is you guys understood what we talked about today. And well, if there's any questions, if you see me in the corridor, you can always ask me. But until then, I'll catch you in the next classroom. Take care.